Om Akyantimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Nina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadha Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Janmadyasya yatunvayaditarata shtarteshvabhigyaswarat Tene brahmaridhaya radikavaye muhyanti yasuraya Tejo varimridam yata vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna svena sadhana rastukuakam satyam param dimahi Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 1. So Parikshit Maharaj has asked a question, how living entities can be saved from going to hell. That's his question. So Shukadeva Goswami, giving test, first gave answer in terms of how the karmis think. They say you should do prayashchitta, atonement, according to the severity of the sin performed. And then that atonement can save you from gliding down to hell. So Parikshit Maharaj rejects this because he says it is seen that even persons of knowledge who know the consequences of sin, either by hearing or by experiencing it even, they again helplessly perform sins. That is seen. So I don't think this is a good answer. Is that it's like the elephant bath, and the elephant bathes itself and then immediately comes out and throws dust all over itself. So I think this atonement is like this. That's not a good answer. So he passed the test of a guru who was saying if he has been hearing and understanding attentively. So now we left off at verse 11. Shukadeva Goswami again gives tests and gives answer according to what the Gyanis would say. So this is their answer. Karmana, karma nirharo na hyantyantika ishate avidhva dadikaritat prayashchittam vimarshanam. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami, son of Vyasadeva, answered, my dear king, since acts meant to neutralize impious actions are also fruitive, they will not release one from the tendency to act fruitively. So this is the first line translation of the first line. Karmana karma neharo. So this word karma nehara means the counteraction of karma, and the fruit of activity, the materialistic activity. In this case, sin, which is a type of, karma. So you want to counteract the reaction. So what do you use to counteract the reaction? Karmana, you use another karma to do it. So it's in the same category, basically. It's just like Narada Muni gives us example in 4th Canto, we heard it, that if you're carrying one burden on your shoulder, like say a sack of potatoes, you have to carry it some distance, say 100 yards, 100 feet, whatever. And, you're carrying it like halfway, your shoulder really starts to hurt. So then you transfer it to the other shoulder. And then, but you've not actually gotten rid of the burden. Only when you actually throw the burden down is it released. So similarly, there one type of karma, sin, and you're using another type of karma to counteract it, but it's in the same sort of, you can say, ontological category. So you've not actually really resolved your problem. You've only shifted it from one shoulder to the other, or from the shoulder to the head, but you've not actually gotten rid of your burden. Why? Because the karmic activity itself is the cause of the problem. So that's what he wants to say here. Continuing the translation, nahi atyantiki ishate. So it is not possible to atyantiki, to absolutely eradicate the problem by replacing one karma with another type of karma. So persons who, I'm continuing the translation here, persons who subject themselves to the rules and regulations of atonement are not at all intelligent. Indeed, they are in the mode of darkness unless one is freed from the mode of ignorance. Trying to counteract one action through another is useless because this will not uproot one's desires. Prabhupada has really expanded the translation here. Thus, even though one may superficially seem pious, he will undoubtedly be prone to act impiously. Therefore, real atonement is enlightenment and perfect knowledge, Vedanta, by which one understands the supreme absolute truth. So the third line is avidva adhikaritva. So the jiva is qualified by avidya. So his karma, whether it's pious type or impious type, is called avidya karma, right? What is that verse from Vishnu Purana? I need to learn this verse. Where Krishna is describing, there's the three entities, basically God, the Kshetragya Jiva, and Maya. And the Kshetragya, the Jiva, he is qualified by avidya karma. What is that verse from Vishnu Purana? Look it up. It's a good verse. Someone find it for me. Mahaprabhu also quotes it quite a bit, and Sanatan Shikshra, everywhere it's quoted. Someone can look up avidya karma, Google it or whatever. Anyway, so the living entity's activity is avidya karma. Avidva adhikaritva. He's qualified by ignorance. So this is the problem. So you do one sinful activity, which is avidya karma, and you try to counteract it by pious activity, which is also avidya karma. So in that way, the problem is not solved. Atyantika ikshite. It is just moved from one, shifted from the shoulder to the head. So the real atonement, prayashchitam, the real atonement is vimarshanam. Vimarshanam here means you should get gyan. Because by gyan, this avidya can be counteracted, which is at the root of the problem. So that's what he wants to say here. This is what the Gyanis say. This is their answer to the question, how to be saved from going to hell. Because even if you are a pious person, because you're in the gunas of nature, at any moment you can do anything crazy, isn't it? Even we feel that about ourselves. We can't even trust ourselves. When you're in avidya and you know it, you know that you are not even trustworthy to your own self. Given the opportunity, who knows what we would do, given a certain set of circumstances, or even we often would joke like this, that when you're in a space, with friends and family or whatever, and having conversation, you're all right, you're kind of safe. And then when the last family member leaves and you're just alone, then depending on where you're at and your spirituality and your struggle with the vidya, then particularly if you're not doing very well in the fight against avidya, then you can't even trust your own self. So the real solution is getting rid of this avidya. Prayashchitam vimarshanam. One needs gyan. Then you can save yourself from going to hell. Otherwise, you're just a pious person until you're not. As simple as that. You're a pious person, 29 days out of the month, 30 days out of the month, and then on the 31st day, you do something crazy because of the influence of the gunas, something very heavy. Just like, think about it. You may have lived a pious life, I'm talking about empirically speaking, not even like religious, like how the hedonists think about what is a pious person. You may have lived in a pious way your whole life, but perhaps one day you do a crime of passion. You see your wife or girlfriend, or husband, boyfriend, whatever, kissing someone else, and you do crime of passion and kill them. Then you get to go to jail for a long time for that one mistake. So that is what it's like. Even if you're a pious person, but you're qualified by avidya, then at any moment you'll do something crazy, and then you'll be punished. And you can be sent to hell also in the Vedic culture. You make some heinous mistake and then you can go to hell. So real prayashchitta is vimarshana. You need gyan. That's the real solution. But problem is there. Gyan, how can you be sinful and have a gyan? They cannot have the same locus. A sinful person cannot also have gyan in an embodied sense, at least. Gyan manifests spontaneously for those who have purified the antakarna, the subtle body, through various sadhanas. You can say specifically karma yoga. So, how can someone practice Gyan? That is the question here. So, this wants to be answered in verse 12. Nashnata patyam evanam vyadhayo abhibhavantihi. So evam niyamakrit rajan shanakshimaya kalpate. My dear king, if a diseased person eats the pure, uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician, he is gradually cured and the infection of disease can no longer touch him. So nashnata patyamevana vyadhayo abhibhavantihi. So the example is given, you are sick. So that sickness is compared to avidya here. One is sick, but when sick, if you eat proper food stuff under the guidance of a physician, you take the medicine and you eat the proper food stuff, then even though you are sick, the sickness does not overtake you. Vyadhaya abhibavantihi. You're not overwhelmed or overcome by this sickness. And gradually, by following the prescription given by the physician, then you come to health. That's the example is given. So similarly, Avam, similarly, if one follows the regular principles of knowledge, niyamakrit, if he follows the GAN's, rules, then gradually he progresses toward liberation from material contamination, even though he's in ignorance. Shanakshemaya kalpate. Gradually he attains Shemaya. Shemaya here must mean the Gyan as an embodied experience. So the doubt was, wait, if you're a sinful person, you can't have a Gyan. So he says, it's okay. You're a sinful person, it means you're sick. But if you eat proper food and take medicine under the guidance of the physician, gradually you become healthy. So you follow this angas of Gyan, and gradually you'll become healthy. You'll get Gyan, you'll be free from sinful reaction. That's the analogy. That's what he's telling here. So he elaborates on this. What are the angas of Gyan? Notice this particular verse. Famous in a sense. I've heard Prabhupada quote this verse many times. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena cha tyagena satyam shochabhyam yamena niyamena bha. So these are the angas of Gyan. Tapasa means austerity. And Prabhupada in his purport, he quotes a nice statement. I don't know from which shastra this is coming. But manasash chindriyanam cha aikargyam paramam tapa. So when you withdraw your mind and senses and focus it on one point, cha ekagram, fix it on one point, that is called tapasya. Prabhupada, their complete concentration on one kind of activity. So this is tapasya. That's why Nam Japa is tapasya. Well, not the way we normally chant, which is actually Nam Parat. If we chant it properly, then Nam Japa is tapasya for sure. Trying to get the mind and senses to just focus on, the sound of Krishna's name. Brahmacharya means giving up the association of women or the object of sexual attraction. So Prabhupada, he makes reference to some verse, Shravanam Kirtanam Keli. There's one verse that's there. Under Brahmacharya, we normally just translate as celibacy, but it has 8 aspects, Prabhupada writes here. This is a verse, Shravanam Kirtanam Keli. So one should not, Smaranam Kirtanam Keli. So one should not think of women. One should not speak about sex life, Kirtanam. Keli, one should not dally with women. That means like flirting. One should not look lustfully at women. One should not talk intimately with women or decide to engage in sexual intercourse, nor should one endeavor for sex life or engage in sex life. So one should not even think of women or look at them to say nothing of talking with them. This is called first class brahmacharya. So this is brahmacharya principle. Shamena cha damena cha. So this means the mind control, the sense control. Tyagena means renunciation. Satya, truthfulness. Shochabhyam, cleanliness. Yamena niyamena va. The yamas and the yamas like you find in yoga system, such as ahimsa and what are one of the niyamas? Shocha. I think shocha is one of the niyamas also. So these are the angas of Gyan. That's what he's saying. So you follow these angas of Gyan under some physician. Although you are sick, your sickness will not overcome you if you follow these angas of Gyan. Then gradually, you'll come to Vimarshanam, the Prayashitam Vimarshanam. So he concludes, these are the angas there. That's that verse. Dehava buddhi jam dhira, dharma gyashada yamvita. So in this way, dhira, a wise person, I guess the dhira here is the wise person who's taking shelter of a Gyan guru and following these prescriptions under the guidance of such a Gyani. So the wise person who is dharma gyashara yamvita, he's endowed with faith and he's knowledgeable of dharma. Then he can destroy the agham. Shipantyagam means he destroys the sin. Maharapi, even though it's a very great sin, appearing dehavag buddhijam. The sin is appearing in the body, in the words, and the intelligence. Even great sin can be destroyed by this dear person who's under the guidance of a Gyan Guru. He's knower of Dharma, he's endowed with faith. So an analogy is given, then the way Prabhupada translates this last line, he says, these sins are like the dry leaves of creepers beneath a bamboo tree, which may be burned by fire, although their roots remain to grow again at the first opportunity. There's a little bit expanded analogy there. Venung gulam, so gulumam, the dry creepers beneath the bamboo tree, so they get burned by the fire. But if it's still, the root is still there, again, the creeper comes out and again produces leaves. So this is implicit, this is the implicit indication of the analogy being used here by Bhagavatam, because Gyan is ultimately Sattva Guna. So Sattva Guna is still the modes of nature. It's still a rope. As I've mentioned many times in our classes, when Krishna gives his exposition on the gunas of Prakriti in Bhagavad Gita, he only speaks about Sattva as a rope, as one of the ropes that binds the living entity to samsara. So although we often hear Sattva Guna extolled, oh, Sattva this, Sattva that, and so on, but actually Sattva is not that glorious either. Of course, relatively speaking, it's glorious. So the reason Sattva gets extolled even in our own sanghas is because many of us live or have lived, rajasic and tamasic, lifestyle in terms of our empirical existence. We may be bhaktas, but our empirical existence is quite rajasic and tamasic. And we suffer, and we come to the mentor or counselor or whoever, the guru, and we're suffering because of our rajasic, tamasic ways of being. So we get instructions to sattvasize our existence, and we do so to whatever degree we can, and we see the results of that, and it feels nice. As Krishna says, the effect of the mode of goodness is sukham and analayam, freedom from disease. So you feel good. So it's very practical, and you get practical result quickly. Unlike with Krishna, you don't know if he's coming or not, if I'll get prema or not, if I'll get the nartas gone or not, who knows. But with the sattva stuff, you get immediate experience. So in this way, sattva gets extolled, but actually sattva is just a rope. So if you get this gyan is just sattva guna. More sattva is coming, more and more sattva. You've cultivated these angas of gyan, so the sattva is increased a lot. Now you have the gyan is there, but it is only sattva guna. You're still in maya, because sattva guna is still maya shakti, as Krishna also teaches to Uddhava, is that maya shakti has two, herself has two, shaktis or divisions, the avidya part and the vidya part. So the avidya part, of course, is rajas tamas, and the vidya part of maya is sattva guna. So that vidya part, you get some illumination gone. That's still maya. So because you're still in maya, again, you may get covered over. That's the point. That is what the Bhagavatam wants to implicitly say with this analogy. Venum gulmami banala. All the creepers have been burned by this sattva-guna, this gyan, but it's still rooted. One is still rooted in maya, in other words. So again, the creeper may come up, again, produce leaves. Again, you're in trouble. So this Gyan is not really a solution to the problem of ignorance. At least you've identified what is the real problem, right? The real problem is avidya. And it seems to make sense that Gyan should be the solution to avidya. But that is a unique teaching, I would say, of bhakti, and Gaudiya bhakti specifically, that Gyan is actually not the solution to avidya. Bhakti is a solution to avidya. And this verse is there, we quote many times. Bayam dutiya benivesha tashari share pe tashavi parayo ashmiti. Tanmaya yato buddha abhajetam bhaktya kayesham guru deva tatma. So this verse is describing what it means to be in Maya, obliviousness of the Lord, and therefore obliviousness of the self, false identity with the non-self, absorption and the false story of the non-self, and then fear. This is all Maya. So if you're intelligent, you want to get out of the Maya, what is the solution? Bhagavatam is telling you, Bhaktya Eka Isham Guru Deva Tatma. You should do exclusive bhakti to Krishna. It doesn't say Gyan. So in the commentary to this verse offered by our devotees also, they reference, I think, Srila Sridhar Swami. And many say that Gyan is the solution to this Maya problem, but that is not the solution. Even Krishna says in Gita, what is that verse? 7:14 Bhagavad Gita. Why am I thinking Mam Shahya Bicharina? How is 7? Daivihesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Daratya, Mamevaye Prapadyante Mayami Tam Tarantite. So these gunas of Maya, Daivihesha Gunamai, this Maya composed of the guna is very strong. Daratyaya, you're not getting out of this Maya. You're getting in Satogun, but not out of Maya. But if you surrender unto me, you can come out. So bhakti is a solution to avidya, not gyan. So this answer is also not satisfying to Parikshit Maharaj. He doesn't say anything because it's a good answer, because you identified the root problem is avidya, and it makes sense that gyan should be the solution. But in the commentaries, it says that Parikshit Maharaj's face looked a little bit like, what type of answer is this? I don't know what he was, that his internal dialogue was not likely like that, but he looked disappointed. So seeing the disappointment of the disciple for this incomplete answer, the guru is very happy. And then he gives the answer according to the bhaktas. So this is verse 15. So verse 11 through 14 was the answer to the question according to the Gyanis. Now from 15 up to verse 19, which is the end of the passage, is the answer according to the devotees, what they say, or what we say, I should say rather. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agham dhumanti karsnyena niharam eva bhaskara. This is a good verse to know, actually. I used to know this verse too. It's a good verse to know. So this verse says, Kechit, some people. So Prabhupada translated only a rare person. That's how he's translated this word kechit, which means some people. In other words, those who do bhakti, especially this kevalaya bhaktiya, those who do this pure bhakti, they're very rare persons. And we know the reasons why it's rare. You have to get it from sadhus and all that. It's rare. So kechit, some people, speaks to the rarity of this pure bhakti. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna, so kevalaya bhaktiya, Vasudeva Parayana, can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. So agham dunvanti karshnena. So this person, if he does kevala bhakti, then he can completely karshnena. I don't even know saying that right. Completely here means what completely means here. What do you call antyantiki? Like we heard this language in terms of the anartha-nivritti, right? Ekadesha vyapini, bahudesha vyapini, prayiki, purna, atyantiki. So the difference between purna and atyantiki is that purna, it's complete, but the anartha can return. Atyantiki means no question of the anartha returning. So here it's saying by kevala bhakti, then you can completely, with no question of it returning, uproot the sin. Agham dhumvanti. destroy the sin completely. Niharam iva bhaskara. So an example is given. Just as when the sun rises, it is like when the sun dissipates fog. So if there's some thick fog is there, you may have experienced. It's very scary actually when there's thick fog and you're driving on the highway. I don't know if anyone ever had an experience like that. But a few times when I've driven with devotees to New Vrindavan, we got into a situation where it was heavy fog and driving on the highway. And I just remember my god brother who was driving at the time. He didn't want to stop because we were like, pull over, right? You literally cannot see but like a couple inches in front of you. You know, a couple inches, I should say, rather, a couple of feet in front of you. It's like so thick. And he was like driving like normal. It's like you can just run into a car. You can't see it. It's very dangerous. So that avidya is like this. It's very thick. But when the sun rises, it just dissipates the fog completely. So Kevala Bhakti is like this sun, and this avidya is like the fog. So the sun of Bhakti can completely dissipate the fog of avidya with no question of it returning. Unlike the other example of Gyan, where you're still kind of rooted in Maya. So again, you can become covered over. This Kevala Bhaktya means it doesn't require any support from karma and Gyan, and it is also devoid of karma and Gyan. So you're just interested in Krishna, you know, Anya Bilashita Shunyam Gyana Karmadya Navritam. Anoko Yena Krishna Nushila Nam Bhakti Uttama. This is Kevala Bhakti. This is what we mean by Kevala Bhakti. Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Prabhupada also has quoted this verse. Very nice verse here, important verse. So now this is the answer. That's very satisfying. He continues on. He explains further this opinion of the Bhaktas. Now he wants to drive it home. I think that is called Stuna Nikatata Nyaya. Stuna Nikanana Nyaya means driving in the post. If you want to stick a pole in the ground, you have to dig the hole very deep so the pole can go inside. So they want to make a point. So Shastra, you know, by directly glorifying and indirectly criticizing those who don't do the thing. And that way they want to make it firm in our head that we should do bhakti. So natata yagavan rajam puyeta tapa adibihi. So the person who is agavan, full of the sinful activity, right? This agavan word, Shraddhavan means one who has a lot of faith, replete with faith, Shraddhavan Jan. Okay. And you have Bhagavan, right? Bhagavan means replete with the bhagas, the opulences. So then you have this Gyanavan. Krishna also says that word Gyanavan in Gita, one who is replete with Gyan. And here Agavan, replete with sin. So which one we are also? Anyway, that's a rhetorical question. Shraddhavan, Bhagavan, Gyanavan, or Agavan. So the person who is Agavan, then he cannot purify himself. Na puyeta, he cannot purify himself so much, tata. He cannot so much purify himself with tapa adibihi, with tapasya, etc., all those principles of Gyan that we heard about earlier. He cannot so much purify himself by those processes, yata, as much as he can purify himself by Krishnarpita prana, ta purusha nishevaya, by just surrendering his everything to Krishna, Krishnarpita prana. Krishna arpita prana means you surrender your prana, arpita and surrender, your prana, your life, your existence to Krishna. And that manifests as ta purusha nishevaya, by doing his service, nishevaya, by engaging in the service of that Lord. You just give everything to him. That itself is ultimate purification. And the purification afforded one by these other processes is not so much. That's what he wants to say here. And obviously, taking the metaphysics of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the reason is because the angas of Gyan are composed of the gunas of nature, well, sattva specifically. Whereas the act of surrendering to Krishna, his service, is the influence and the substance of the internal energy. Mayam yudhyasya chit shakti, and the nature of internal energy is to drive away Maya. So therefore, the purification afforded one by bhakti cannot be compared to, or I should say it the other way around. The purification afforded by these Gyan Angas cannot be compared to what you get from even a little bit of bhakti, because of the ontological status of each of the Angas of Gyan and bhakti, respectively. So, the message here then is do bhakti. Next verse. Sadrichinna hayam loke pantakshema akutobhaya sushila sadavo yatra narayana parayana. So some people think that this bhakti is for less intelligent persons. What is that verse from Gita? Manusha nam sarhasheshu kashten yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddha nam kashten maveti tattvataha. So Krishna says, out of many thousands of men, hardly any one is endeavoring for siddhi, spiritual perfection. Everyone mostly fools and rascals, especially in Kali Yuga. So no one is interested in siddhi, the perfection of human life. And out of those who have siddhi, hardly anyone knows me in truth. That's what Krishna says. So in that purport, Prabhupada, he also points out, many people say there's bhakti for the less intelligent persons. Like women and children and the dullards, they cannot do the gyan and the yoga stuff. It's too hard, sophisticated. It's for more intelligent people. So they do bhakti. So Prabhupada, he challenges that there. He says, if bhakti was so easy, then why, and also giving the same result, why take the more difficult path if you are intelligent? Suppose you're trying to go to some location and one way you get there gets you there in 10 minutes and the other way gets you there in 2 hours. So if you are actually intelligent, you'll take the way that gets you there in 10 minutes, right? So Prabhupada giving pushback, if this bhakti gives the same result, why would you take the more difficult path if you are more intelligent? And he says the reason is because actually bhakti is hard. Because the level of, you can say, self-forgetfulness, basically you become displaced from the center of your own existence when you do bhakti. So it's a little bit frustrating experience. Actually, when we're able to complete that process, it is like a fish being in water. But we don't experience it like that in the beginning. We just experience ourselves being displaced by Krishna. Displaced means you're the center of your world, right? Right now, everything is about you. Even you have responsibilities to others and so on. But at the end of the day, when you take inventory, it's about you. And how you feel, how you performed. We're naturally self-centered. So Krishna is the actual center. So the more you become Krishna conscious, the more you become displaced from the center of your own consciousness. That's a very difficult thing. So Prabhupada said bhakti actually is not easy. So anyway, brought that up just to say, here also people give this statement. No, this bhakti is for less intelligent. No, sadrichinna hyayam loke pantakshema akutobhaya. No, this is the actual right path in this world. Sadrichinna hyayam loke. In this world, certainly this bhakti is the appropriate path for saving people from going to hell. Because remember, this is the question that's being asked. This panta, this path, is auspicious and free from fear. Kshema akutobhayam. Sushila sadavo yatra narayana parayana. Why is that? Because it's filled with nice persons who are surrendered to Narayana parayana, and they are sushila sadavo yatra. They are saintly and they have good behavior. Sushila means they're well behaved. The idea here is this path of bhakti is appropriate. It is auspicious and free from fear because the saintly person is also part of this process. That's the idea here. Because you get sadhu sangha. And gyan, to do gyan yoga, you ideally have to do it alone. It is meant to be a process that is done alone. And nothing like sadhu sangha as an important principle in gyan sadhana or even yoga sadhana when you get to the higher stages, samadhi and all that. So, and gyan, there's fear because you're by yourself. Fear, you have to do it alone. And karma path, it is inauspicious because so many envious persons are there. They create obstacles for each other, as you know very well, engaging with the materialist. So, but this path, Ikshema Akutobhaya, because these saintly persons here. Don't even ask me some question about, but Prabhuji, we have seen in our communities that. Don't even ask me something like that. If they are Narayana Parayana, really surrender to Narayana, they are Sushila Sadhava. They are well behaved and saintly for sure. So there are so many saints on this path. We just focus on the not saintly ones and get bewildered. But so many saints, if you do their sangha, then you feel very much invigorated and that you can do this bhakti yoga. So this is the right path for the people in this world. They should, okay, last two verses here. So prayaschittani chirnani narayana paramukam nanish nishpunanti rajendra sura kumbha ivapaga. So he wants to criticize those who don't take up bhakti to make us more firmly take up bhakti. It's called yatireka, negative concomitants, to make a person. When you preach, you have to glorify and also criticize not doing anything you want people to do. And that way you make people firm. So prayaschittani chirnani. So my dear king, a pot containing liquor cannot be purified even if washed in the waters of many rivers. So na nishpunanti rajendra sura kumbham ipapakaha. If there's some pot with the liquor in it, sura kumbham, and you try to wash it with river water, still the scent will be becoming very strong. Na nishpunanti means you can't really clean it. Or like hing bottle. Have you ever tried to clean a hing vessel before? You, after all the hing is used, and you think, oh, this is actually useful, I'll reuse it. And you try to clean the hing, but still the strong scent is coming. And you can't clean it so easily or at all, practically. So he wants to say like this, for those who are Narayana Paramukan. Narayana Paramukan means turned away from God. These people who are turned away from God, prayaschittani chirnani, even if they do other forms of atonement, and completely. Chirnani means like they finish them properly, they do them properly. But they are Narayana Paramukan. They are turned away from Narayana. Then that is like trying to clean themselves. That is like trying to clean a liquor pot or a hing bottle, which means that some nasty scent is going to remain. You're not really cleaning it. In other words, even if you have to do these other processes, there has to be Narayana involved in it. There should be some bhakti in it. Otherwise, you can't really purify and remain averse to God at the same time. That is not possible. So in this way, this verse is demonstrating the superlative value of bhakti. Bhakti is not needing support in any sphere, as we've heard many times, but these other processes require bhakti to support them. Otherwise, it doesn't work. You cannot be averse to God and also do prayaschitta nicely. It's not going to give result. Last verse of the passage. This is a very nice verse. So this really is the clincher, because the question was, how can one be saved from going to hell? Sakremana Krishna Padara Vindayo Niveshitam Ta Guna Ragi Yariha Nate Yaman Pashavritashtata Bhutan Swapne Pi Pashanti Hichirna Niskrita. This is a very nice verse. So Sakremana Krishna Padara Vindayo Niveshitam. If one even one time absorbs his mind in the lotus feet of Krishna, Sakremana Krishna Padara Vindayo Niveshitam. If even one time, what to speak of many times, that's the idea here. The Kaimutya Nyaya is used a lot in this pastime. Kaimutika Nyaya means the logic of if this, what to speak of that. I think they call it the a fortiori. That sounds ghetto. I don't know how to say this word, but a fortiori. Anyway, my English explanation gives it, if this, what to speak of that. So even one time you absorb your mind in Krishna, what to speak of many times. That's the idea here. And that mind is also ta gunaragi. You're absorbing yourself in Krishna, but your mind is gunaragi. Gunaragi means full of the material desires. Material rag is there. Rag for the gunas is there. So what to speak of if your mind was without that raga for the gunas? Swapneyapi. Swapneyapi means even in your dream. Even in your dream, what to speak of if you're actually trying to meditate on Krishna. If one even once remembers Krishna or observes his mind in Krishna's lotus feet, even with a material mind, even in a dream, then Nateyaman Pashapratashtatabhatan. He will not see the order carriers of Yamaraj, who has the ropes to take people to hell. He will not see the entity, even in his dream, he'll not see Yamaraj. Pashanti, he'll not see, even in his dream, these people. Because Chirna Nishkrita, he has done complete prayashchita. Nishkrita means atonement, and Chirna means he's finished all atonements. Because by bhakti, he destroyed his avidya, so his atonement is complete. So there is no question of him seeing the people who take you to hell, because the whole question is like how they can be saved from hell. So the answer is by bhakti. And he wants to say here, and our acharyas indicate this in the commentary, that bhakti does not have to be very strong also. So you say, okay, if the bhakti is very strong, then no, even if the bhakti is not very strong. So that's why the verse is saying sakrimana Krishna. The word sakrim means only once. So that didn't mean that he's absorbed in Krishna. Even one time he did it. Even his mind was full of the material raga. Even he wasn't deeply meditated. He only thought in the dream also. So that means this person is not having stable bhakti yet. Still, this person will not have to see Yamaraj. Even that person will not have to see Yamaraj. Then what to speak of someone who's absorbed in Krishna constantly with a mind devoid of material desires and his waking life and his meditative life? What to speak of such a person? Even this person who does not have firm bhakti will not have to see the hellhounds. So, in this way, you should do bhakti nicely. You should. This is the answer to your question. Do bhakti. Now, having established this, he wants to tell some story, Ajamil's story. So that is the next passage. He will tell Ajamil's story. And then the story is very fascinating. This is a very inspirational. Actually, everything in the sixth canto is inspirational because it's the Poshanam topic, how God is showing his mercy to his devotees who are struggling in this world. So this whole canto is just like inspiring. And Ajamil's story is also very inspiring. So that's what we're going to hear now. Now he's given his answer in terms of bhakti also, and now he wants to show how this plays out, how karma was insufficient, how Gyan was insufficient, and how Ajamil was saved by bhakti. He will now tell this story. So we'll stop here and see if anyone will say anything. So we got here, Sham Gopi says, bhakti can destroy the reactions that are awaiting to be fructified, aparabdha karma. But how can bhakti destroy reactions to the already manifested karma, the parabdha karma? So I remember you taught us in Nectar Devotion, like Jiva Goswami gives example of needle going through the lotus petals. Can you please remind me? So you already know this section. You can go and read it. But yeah, we hear the bhakti destroys both the aparabdha and the parabdha karma. So this is not true for the Gyan process. So Gyan process also said can destroy the aparabdha karma, but it doesn't destroy the parabdha karma. So that parabdha karma of the Gyani has to continue to play itself out until he dies. And the example is given, the example is given, I think, of a potter's wheel and classical like Sankhya texts. Prabhupada gives a more, modern one of the fan. If you unplug the fan, so now it's unplugged from the aparabdha karma, but the fan will continue to spin until it stops spinning, right? So that is a parabdha karma. It will continue to go until death, basically. So this is true of the Gyan process, but it's saying that bhakti also destroys the parabdha karma. So why our bodies are also spinning, or we see our parabdha karma seems to be playing itself out also, isn't it? We say like that, or we not say, we see like that. Otherwise, as soon as we chant Hare Krishna, we would just die immediately because the body is itself the result of parabdha karma. So I chant Hare Krishna, then no one will take this bhakti. It's like, nah, dude. Everyone in Europe, you don't even have a movement. Everyone dead. Everyone who chanted Hare Krishna died. So But we see that the devotees' existence go on, their parabdas is there, their families are there. So what is it meant by the parabda karma gets destroyed? So the way it's covered there in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that I recall, we have to go and look it up. But basically what I recall there is that um, they quote a verse from third canto Bhagavatam which says that one who is even once chanted holy name, he becomes qualified to do Vedic yagyas, right? This is the verse they quote. And so as an example of how bhakti destroys the parabdha karma, because it is understood that this person was disqualified to do the Vedic yagyas because of his low birth. He had like dog eater's birth. So he was disqualified for doing the yagyas. But if he chants the holy name one time, then he becomes qualified to do the yagyas. So that means that his parabdha karma must be destroyed. Otherwise, how is it he becomes qualified to do the yagyas? So the way I recall the acharyas dealing with that verse, well, Jiva Goswami and Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur deal with that verse in very different ways, actually completely different ways, night and day different, poles apart different, which just goes to show you different acharyas have different opinions about these things also. The way Jiva Goswami deals with it, as I recall, you can go and see it. But he basically says the problem, the reason the dog eater was disqualified is because of his bad qualities. If you got a low bird, that means you have some low qualities. Believe it. And therefore, by bhakti, all those low qualities that disqualified him from doing the Vedic yagya have been destroyed by bhakti. So now he is qualified to do the Vedic yagya. So that means his parabdha karma of low qualities has been destroyed. But if he wants to do the Vedic yagya, he still has to take birth again. This is Jiva Goswami's comment there, because the idea here is that you're trained as a young boy. You have to get Upanayana initiation, and you're trained as a young boy to do these Vedic yagyas. But now you're older, you've taken up bhakti. So if you want to do the Vedic yagyas, you will have to leave this world, and take birth again in a Brahmin family, so that you can learn all the techniques and rituals to do the Vedic yagya. So it doesn't mean that, oh, now I'm qualified to do the Vedic yagya and I'll just go and do it. That is Sri Jiva Goswami's purport. And the smarter Brahmanas, they love that commentary like anything. But Sri Vishwanath starkly disagrees with this and says that no, it means he can do the Vedic yagya. It doesn't mean he's just offered the respect of one who can do the Vedic yagya, because that's what Jiva Goswami says. Although this Chandala can't do the Vedic yagya, he's offered the respect of one who can because of his bhakti, because bhakti has destroyed his parabdha karma. But Sri Vishwanath says, no, that's not what the verse says. The verse says he can do the Vedic yagya. He's qualified because his parabdha karma is destroyed. So he takes a very starkly different view on that. On that verse. And I guess our Gaudiya gurus coming from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, we take that side, So you see so many people join the movement and they're doing Vedic yagyas and so on. Anyway, that's a little bit of a gloss. I have to go back and read that section also. You can see it there. Baladev Vibhushana, when talking about this, because he brings up the same problem. If parabdha karma is destroyed, then the body would drop dead. So he says that the Supreme Lord maintains the bodies of devotees even though they have no parabdha karma, so that they can continue to do his work in this world, do the work of God, spreading bhakti and so on. Otherwise, there'd be no one to spread the movement. And so therefore, we are forbidden as devotees from seeing devotees from the material point of view. We are, yeah, we are, what was the word I just used? I like that word. Not denied.
Forbidden.
Forbidden. I like that word used here. We are forbidden to look at devotees from the material point of view, thinking that, oh, this is their parabdha karma. No. Krishna has destroyed the parabdha karma. He's maintaining them so that they can develop their bhav bhakti, which is the same reason given by Jiva Goswami for why Krishna even manifests the material world. This whole Srishti Leela, according to Jiva Goswami, The whole material universe is unfolded just to give sadhakas the opportunity to come to sadhya. That is the only purpose by which Christians inspire to unfold the material universes. So if someone is a bhakta, we are forbidden to look at them in terms of like material things and say, oh, that is their corrupted karma. Now just look at them. Now, the devotee may himself in his prayers say like that. So many prayers you'll see bhaktas saying like that. But we are forbidden to see any devotee like that. Oh, Bhishma, he's on a bed of arrows because he ate food from Duryodhana's house. In India, sometimes the Hindus, they say like that. Bhishma died in a horrible way in one sense on the bed of arrows. They think like that because of his parabdha karma. He took money from the wicked Duryodhana. He ate his food. He was maintained. So now he had to suffer consequences. So we are forbidden to see like that as bhaktas. So these are some ideas there. You can go check out this section. Very interesting. Where did we go see it? It's just there in the beginning. It's in the Kleshagni section, right? Because pure bhakti is Kleshagni. So when he describes Kleshagni, he's going through the whole, there are 4 types or 3 types of kleshas, and sin is of 2 types, aparabdha and parabdha, and then bhakti destroys it. You can see it's right there in the beginning. Where do we find the book? What do you mean? What book? Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu?
No, Prabhu, I mean to say commentaries.
They're there. Bhanu Swami is translated Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu with commentaries of Sri Jiva and Sri Vishwanath, right? So you can get it online, Amazon.
Oh, Google it, you mean to say. Okay.
So yeah, you can see it there. Okay, so it's interesting that Ganmar can only destroy Aparabdha karma, but not Parabdha karma. Bhakti can destroy both. So cool. Never analyze this comparison. Yeah, you go and see it. Google and find it. You can do it. Amazon.com. Go and type in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or you can type in Bhanu Swami, and then you can see BRS is there, one of the prominent books. He's translated. It's been there for a while. Then you can order it. Agape says, so what exactly does Bhakti aspect of Karma Mishra or Gyan Mishra Bhakti achieve? Does it only help them reach their goal of liberation? It doesn't help purify their sinful desires or ignorance, of course. So when you say Karma Mishra or Bhakti or Gyan Mishra Bhakti, these refer to persons who are actually bhaktas. So that means Bhakti is predominant for them. But they support their Bhakti or with Varnashram Dharma, that is called Karma Mishra Bhakti, or this Gyan principles like Tapasa, Brahmacharyena, Shemena, Chajamena, Cha. We heard these verses today. So they say they mix it with these principles, their bhakti. And usually these Mishra Bhakta types, they're like into Vaikunta. They're not into Rag Marg. So they're bhakti. So you'll find, like, for example, the Madhvaites, those who follow Madhvacharya, they call it Tattvaris, or you call Sri Vaishnavas. So you'll find their thing is like what we would call as Karma Mishra Bhakti. Because for them, Varnashram is like super duper important. And if you can't just do bhakti without Varnashram. So they're bhaktas, but Varnashram principle is playing very strongly into that. So this Gyan Mishra Bhaktas, he's also primarily bhakta, but he may be into Shantarasa. Where, in that there's a lot of prominence of Brahman or Paramatma attraction and, forest life. And like this, you can go and read about Shantarasa and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also. But they're bhaktas only. So they will achieve, the same result any bhakta will achieve. They will at least, not same result in the sense that they can destroy ignorance. That is the complete atonement. So they also get, why not? And they can go to Vaikuntha or whatever their goals are. So do they go through the same 9 stages of bhakti then? I don't know, honestly. We don't have manuals on mixed bhakti. Our acharyas talked about Shuddha bhakti in that culture. So I remember in the ashram in Chicago, questions about mixed bhakti was coming up all the time. I used to ask, why are you all the time asking mixed bhakti? You want to do mixed bhakti? Why are you all the time asking mixed bhakti? There's no manual in the mixed bhakti. Our acharya is not giving anything like that. They speak about it because we have some attraction to principles of karma and gyan. So they speak because we've entered into a Shuddha Bhakti culture. They're alerting us to those sorts of attractions that we have in our psyches. And if we want the culture of Shuddha Bhakti that affords us the chance to associate with Krishna and his world, then those aspects in our psyche has to be uprooted. So that's why they get brought up in our commentaries. Well, they're not like any manual for how this Shuddha Bhakti, the mixed bhakti is unfolding. So I don't know all these things. So that's the best I can do with these sorts of questions. Okay, anyone wants to ask anything else before we finish here?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, just in reference to this prarabdha karma that gets destroyed with bhakti, I wonder if it's a fair characterization to say that, we retain our material bodies because, is it like maybe a type of lila? Because it's not because of karma anymore, right? We're wrong.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So it's
Thank you.
maintained because the Lord is maintaining it, because we still have some work to do. If we have not attained sadhya or siddhi, then there's some work to do. So the Lord is mercifully maintaining the bodies so we can do that work for ourselves and do his work also, right? Because he's not on the planet at the present moment. And he also wants his work to continue in this world. So he needs bhaktas to do that, right? As we're studying in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the bhaktas are one of the aspects of the absolute truth through which Krishna does vilas, right? We heard that Krishna does vilas. He does pastimes through these 6 principles, guru, and so on. Guru, bhakta, avatar, prakash, and of course he himself is doing, and his shakti. So the bhaktas are one of those principles through which Krishna is doing vilas, he's doing pastimes. So he has his own work in this world that the devotees are also helping with. So he maintains so we can do his work also. And for those of us who have yet to attain siddhi, he's maintaining so we can also do the work we need to do to bring about the greatest amount of pleasure to him. He's giving us a chance. So in this way, some interesting ideas and go to Vaishnavism.
Okay, thank you.
Okie dokie. So we'll finish here for today and continue the story tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, go Premanandi Hari Hari Go.